Welcome, my brother Mike Kobner. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, my brother. And how are you doing too?
I'm doing very well, but we can't say that we're doing well when we are being killed everywhere and discriminated against, and that's why I thought perhaps we need to discuss a little bit about this our brother who was murdered. In general, what do you have to say about the death of our brother George in the United States of America?
Well, yes, well, this has been the problem that we have been facing all these years. But then, all over the years, there were no video evidence up until the technological advancement age that we are in. So, all the time I keep saying that this time is the best time that you could ever live. This is the best time in the history of the world being there, that you have this time as being the best time that you will be living. So everything that is happening now shows that there is going to be a change very soon, because now nobody can run away from whatever and come up with any flimsy, cooked up stories like it used to be before, where people were murdered, where so many atrocities were committed, but there were no very much concrete evidence that we could pinpoint our hands to like we have now. But
talking about evidence, saying that Trump is a blessing to us, not to mean that I endorse everything he does, but that he shows really our enemies' real face, because the others, they pretend like to be with us, while in reality they are not.
Of course, you are definitely right. Trump has been a blessing in so many other ways. And therefore, like you rightly said, Trump has really exposed the white supremacist agenda against us. Trump said early on, directly, which was quoted, that he said we are from shithole places, shithole continent. And what more were we waiting to hear from him? So everything that he says or he does with regards to anything that goes on with us, it's not something, it shouldn't always come us as a big surprise, but it's just that they will always come up and they show off their true colors. And that is exactly what he's doing. So when we sit over there in Africa, and then after them looting billions, trillions of mineral resources, looting human capacity that could have turned our continent around, that could have turned our respective parent countries around, and then they looted them off freely. Nobody stood in their way, and now they're calling this so-called looting, which they have taught us. This thing that is going on there, every rebellious, every standing up against them, is something that we have learned over the years from them.
Yes, we say it is like a contract, right? It's a contract, written or unwritten, which society has decided to write or to have, so that they can live peacefully and in harmony, right? So that everyone in that society does what he is supposed to be doing. And the government, being a major player, a major stakeholder in this, should lead by example. And now, this government, which is supposed to lead by example and protect all citizens, regardless of their color, their gender, their education, or something of the sort, they are killing people. They are not upholding, they are not doing their part, their bit of the contract, and then they're shocked when we are also demonstrating, and even if there are some few people who are looting. What is worse between looting and murder? Because if I loot, I take the car from you, you can work tomorrow and get another one. But if I kill you, that's the end of you, right?
Oh.
There's no replacement.
Yes. But that means, that clearly tells us that our blood is not comparable to their blood. Therefore, killing us is nothing, because if this policeman who killed George would have done the same thing to a dog, he would have been sanctioned, fired, and then might have been taken to the law court within the space of 24 hours.
Come again? If he would have done it to a dog?
Yes.
So in other words, in their eyes, the dog has more value than a black person, right?
Of course, that is it. That is definitely so. And therefore, shooting at a black person, oh man, because he knew and he thought that, oh, these guys, majority of the looters may be black, and therefore, when we kill them, what do we lose? Because we already want to exterminate them already. That is the agenda against us. That has been the agenda all these years, thereby going down there with vaccines and viruses and all these, a whole lot of stuff that has been happening to us over the years. But one thing that I always want to let my African brothers and sisters know, that living as an African, as a black person, up to this age, as soon as you cross the age of 5 years as a black person, then you must know that you were pre-selected by nature to live. Because the attacks that comes on a black life from the day he or she was born is so much huge that if you survive through it to age 5, then you must count yourself lucky, and then you must know that you belong to a very great species, and therefore you ought to live and then acknowledge that you are such a special breed. Because everything that happens, those of us in the continent of Africa, it is different from the experiences those of us in the diaspora experiences. But there is always something heinous in the agenda against us, both on the continent or also in the diaspora. So, but we have so
some analysts also would argue that we are being treated this way because of our so-called looters, leaders. But I think they should be called for who they really are. I think they're just looters and not leaders, right? Because since this thing, sorry.
Yes, they are called. Yes, you are right on that. They are misleaders and looters.
We have also other people who have been colonized, like the Chinese, the Indians, the Arabs and stuff. You can't kill one of those people just like that and not face the wrath of those people. Of course, us as people, we can't people without any leader. Now, what do you have to say about these people who are in a position of leadership, and this is happening to their sons and daughters, as they say, but they're doing nothing?
Yes, because the reason why most of them are doing absolutely nothing and keeping quiet is the fact that most of these people have their loot hugged over there in the Western world.
Okay. So they partner with the West here to loot the continent and bring the money here, right?
Yes. So where they say where your goal is where your heart is. They are just around us on the continent, but go and ask them, most of these leaders, where their kids, their wives, their girlfriends, their extended family members, where do they live and where do they go to school? Most of them are here in Europe, in Americas, and the Dubais and all these places. So when a crime is being perpetrated there, they are not able, because they are not able to come out, because all these the American government and all these powers that we have everything about them in their hands. They know, they claim that African leaders loot some billions of dollars every year, and where do they deposit them? They deposit them in the West. So
in other words, we are also co-authors of our own misfortune then.
Of course, we are the co-authors of our own misfortune. But what the majority of us don't seem to get is that the minority who are selling us out, who are using us for their own good, have been able to brainwash us so much, so that now in Ghana, when the politicians are not able to deliver, they push us in the churches. They push us in the so-called I call them men of Satan, because there is no man of God who would see clearly that the politician was given so and so amount of money to build or construct a road 1 kilometer, and therefore he wasn't able to do it. But then people come to the church and then they keep complaining about their bad roads and all these things, and the pastors are not able to stand up to the politicians. So you see, they are all in connivance.
Yeah, because talking about churches, I've been always reluctant of talking about this issue of churches, but I always think we need to speak loudly and clearly against all this hooliganism going on in churches, because before we talk about our death, physical death, of us being killed physically, I think they started killing us psychologically and morally, right? And one of the big instruments of doing this is churches. I'll just show or share a little bit here some images. When you read or when you hear these preachers preaching themselves, African preachers, everything that is black is associated with evil, and everything that is white is associated with holiness, with success and something like this, And you can even see this white. All the angels are white. Jesus is white. The disciples are white, and the devil, guess what? Black, and the demons black. And so the white angels are justified killing this black, and this is the image that has been put into our children as they grow, into ourselves, and it's even complicated even to try and explain to people that all this is nonsense. This was intentionally done to dominate us, intentionally done as a way of this white supremacy and putting into us this inferiority complex. Now, these churches, even 60 years after independence, are continuing perpetuating this evil. Now, when a child is shown a picture of an angel, who is white, killing a demon who is black, so when it is done on the street, there's nothing wrong. It's just the angel is just doing what he has to do, which is killing the devil. So, but the question is, are we really the devils, or they are? Are they really the angel, or we are? Because we haven't killed anyone. We have never invaded any country. We have never looted from anyone. And as you were saying, what we are trying to do today, we learned from them. And so I think talking about churches, I don't know, how do we need to correct this because it's too much now?
Of course, yes. Because we have been made to be so much busy fighting ourselves internally, just policing ourselves internally, and then just doing so many unnecessary wranglings and tanglings among ourselves, and therefore taking our focus off the big picture. How can you be sick while you are feeding the whole human race? Majority of the human race now is living off of what comes from Africa, but then you are made to believe that everything African is bad.
So we are feeding the rest of the world while ourselves were starving, right?
We are feeding the rest of the world whilst ourselves are starving. And this is what has been happening all these years of us being in existence. But the propaganda that has been propagated against us and still being propagated is so huge that it is a big industry. It is an industry of propaganda. And that is what we have to start debunking some of this propaganda against us.
But how do we do that? Because whenever we try to address this propaganda, you know what? They call us anti-Semite, they call us conspiracy theory, they call all sorts of manner. And even on some of these platforms, you are banned. Now, how do we do that? Or perhaps we should also find ways of having our own platforms where we will not be banned because of addressing these evils and these evil plans. Because if it was not on the camera, the death of George, they could also have said it is a propaganda or say it's a conspiracy theory, but it was on broad light. How do we deal with it now?
When those of us living now begin to realize that we have to live for the good of tomorrow, future generations, then we will begin to have a different mindset. Because when I am standing here, I'm not afraid to die to save the future of my generation. Then what do I lose? Because most of us have been made to buy into that materialistic world that we are living in now. That is why most of us are afraid to stand up. But as you saw we have been seeing in the USA, back in the days when people thought that when they were using some leaders like Reverend Al Sharpton, like Reverend Jesse Jackson, and all these people, behind the scenes, they meet these people, buy them off, and then they come and just cool tempers down. Whilst the white man keeps on, the white supremacist keeps on propagating all these crimes and evil against us. But then it has come to a point that the Black American has realized that, oh no, all these years this has been going on, and the same approach that we have been using is not working. The same approach that we have been using has not yearned to our benefit. Nothing has been gained from it. Therefore, this time around, we are going to stand up to them. We will meet evil with evil, because it is hardly to meet the present day evil with light, because the white man, everything that you touch, which is money, is a problem. for the white man. And therefore, when people go on the rampage and say, no, enough is enough, we will be killed in the long run, because we may never know who might be the next victim. Just going about his or her business as George was going about his business, and then he was stopped abruptly. For within the next few minutes, he's out of the world, and who knows who might be next. So we all count ourselves dead but living.
America, nobody remembers that stupid shit of lockdown of Corona, because you better, even if Corona is not killing us, the police is killing us. So what do we have to fear anyway?
We're killing you, so what do we do? What do we have to fear anyway? That is the question that we must be asking any living African, any living black person on this earth. That what do you have to fear anymore? What more do you have to fear? Nothing, because it is either through viruses, through calculated killings, or through any means to get you out. So what are you afraid of? Why wouldn't you stand up to face them early? Why? And then sit there and feel comfortable and saying to yourself, oh no, it is my brother, it wouldn't happen to me. Wow, okay.
Now you see as we conclude this.
Going back to
Go ahead.
Going back to education, as we conclude this, Ghana is the only one which has a kingdom, the Ashanti Kingdom, which has a golden stool, which was delivered, which is a holy and a sacred gift from the skies up. Whether it is their so-called heavens written in their Bibles or wherever, it is a sacred treasure that was given to the Ghanaian through one of our priests. But then in the 1700s, how many of us know of that history?
I think all of us, we need to travel back to history, go to Ghana, go to Benin, and try to reconnect with our ancestors.
That history and that priest is never known to more than 20% of our population.
And that's the business that we need to be doing. But let's conclude about it. I don't know if you had this.
But then we sit there, then we learn about Jesus and Israel.
We are even prevented from worshiping, from loving, from being in touch, from being in contact with our forefathers, and we are told that we need to connect with the forefathers of others, and that's stupidity. Just like what is happening now, the war against the coronavirus. I don't know if you heard about this. Is now shifting from the West here to the Africans. Now the Kenyans and the Tanzanians have been what do I say? Have been blaming each other, because in Tanzania the president said what he said. He did his own experiment, and now people who are leaving Tanzania, when they go to Kenya using these kits that the government of Tanzania disqualified, those kits are showing that those people are sick. They have corona. These people, when they go back to Tanzania using other methods than those prescribed. Perhaps we have methods like the ones in Senegal. They're showing that these people are not sick as the Kenyan are claiming. Now, this is becoming amazing, because then the war has moved from the western, the north and the south. Now it's between the south. How do we deal with this, my brother?
Yes. But Kenya, I'm afraid it will be the next recolonized country on the African continent, because they have bought into so much into the white, like the Chinese and all these people. So I don't know. They are because as Magafuli took himself and then used his own intelligence to do his own independent research. Most of our leaders are not, but they are still the
more again.
Yes, our change will only come from the masses, because we have all these years sat down waiting for the leaders to do something, but we don't have any leaders. We only have puppets who are in suits and propagating the agendas of their paymasters. We don't have any leaders because we have a few of them, but that is not the majority, and therefore until we get the 50+1 majority of leaders in Africa thinking and trying to bring about the agenda, the African way, and then thinking about the youth and thinking about the next generation, this fight must be taken up on board by the normal downtrodden African on the street. And so those Africans need to be educated about all these things that we are talking about the need for us to see our forefathers as the heroes, the need for us to bring and to come and create new heroes, not the Kwame Nkrumahs of yesteryears. We need Kwame Nkrumahs of today and the future. We have always been relying on our past glory. We have always been relying on our past glory. How many of the new generation Kwame Nkrumahs do we have now? Can't we find any Julius Camarade, Julius Nyerere? Can't we find any of these past leaders in the new African? That is one thing that we have to start thinking about and start pursuing, and then trying to bring to bear of the African in the continent or out of the continent, like the Marcus Garveys of yesteryears, and then like the Malcolm X's and all these people who fought for the African good.